What's something stupid you used to do in middle school to be cool? I wrote all the Green Day albums on my bag as a checklist and gradually ticked them to show I had them all. I didn't have them all. I did this too. I had a really cute backpack and proceeded to ruin it by taking a Sharpie and writing the names of all the bands I liked all over it. I thought I was going to look so cool with my backpack covered in obscure punk band names. In reality, no one gave a shoot and I just ended up ruining a really nice backpack. I had to eventually give it away because no amount of washing would get the Sharpie out and I couldn't wear it without looking like some lame 14-year-old. This is not as bad as my friend who went through an emo phase in 10th grade and proceeded to waste about 3 of those big black markers with the metal barrels coloring her backpack black because her mom wouldn't buy her a black one. It left black ink on everything and looked gross and streaky as hell, and she ended up tossing it because it was off-gassing marker fumes. This is probably more high school than middle school, but brag about not getting enough sleep. Everyone did it. Oh, you got 5 hours of sleep last night. I've only gotten 2 hours of sleep the past 2 nights. Some stupid game where being the most miserable makes you coolest. A lot of people continue playing this game into adulthood, and not only with sleep. Wore my backpack straps as low as they could possibly go. The bag would slap against the back of my legs every step, but I didn't care cause I was the shoot. In middle school, I never caught on that everybody did this. I wore my backpack up tight right behind my shoulders. One day somebody laughed at me and called me a nerd for wearing my backpack so high, and then I joined the club. Wear an upside down backwards to the left yellow visor with my bleached peroxide hair gelled up. I had a mullet, listened to DJ Quick, wore a Ghost Rider t-shirt all the time, and called everyone Kemosabe. I used to spike my hair to look like Vegeta from Dragon Ball Z. Later on I realized I looked like a douche. Sold off my dad's pronoun. Seriously. Found a bunch of old nudie mags in the basement. Ended up selling them out of my locker a page at a time. Worked great until I made the mistake of selling a page to the special needs kid who immediately showed it to his fundamentalist parents. I suppose a bigger mistake was to get caught doing it again the next year. I'd wear 2 pairs of pants. Normally basketball shorts under jeans. If you ask me then I'd swear it was because it was more comfortable, but really I just thought I was the shoot. People made fun of my voice, so I started trying to speak in a lower tone, which backfired almost immediately. My gym teacher referred to me as Kermit the Frog for years. When I was in 6th grade, I learned that the girl I had a crush on was coming to dinner with some family friends of ours. I wanted to do something to impress her, to make her think I was really smart. I knew at some point she'd probably be in my room as it's where the kids generally congregated during these sorts of things, so I began to set the stage. At the time, I was all about dumpster diving and hitting up yard sales with my other nerd friends to build shooty Frankenstein rigs with the components we salvaged or picked up on the cheap. So naturally I gathered all my mild spare and broken hard drives, poured dish soap all over them, and got the hammer out at the ready. When they entered my room, I made sure I was furiously smashing the shit out of these drives with my hammer. Tiny metallic pieces and soapsuds flying everywhere. We made eye contact for a moment before she and her friend slowly backed out of the room. She avoided me for the remainder of the evening. All these years later, I can still remember the look of horror and confusion on her face. I can't for the life of me remember what series of thoughts lead me to believe there would be any possibility of her having a positive reaction to it. The pubescent mind is an interesting thing. I wore fingerless gloves for an entire day and tried to play it off as weight gloves. However, the little tyke screen logo was very visible. The cringe is real. Draw random marks on myself, so people thought I got into a flirty pen fight with the girls. There were 2 girls who would always draw on me during science. I would get so mad because my mom would get mad when it'd come home with marks all over both arms, and other boys would get really angry or jealous about it, and it just did not click for me. Turns out I'm gay as a bag of dicks, though. I wore a hideous plaid suit jacket from the 70s that I found in the back of my dad's closet. I thought it was hilarious in a so ugly it's cool kind of way. I probably just seemed desperate for attention. had a pretty righteous wave of extreme yo-yo that swept through during 7th grade. And by extreme I mean a bunch of kids getting excited over who could make their yo-yo sleep the longest. There was a boy I had a crush on when I was in 7th grade. After a class field trip one day, a lot of people got really sunburned. When we were changing classes, I overheard him talking about how sunburned he was afterward. I thought it'd be a good conversation starter, since I was so sunburned too. So an hour later, when we changed classes again, I went up to him and said, "Hey Chris, look at this sunburn," and pulled up my shirt sleeve to show the back of my shoulder. He looked at me really strange and went, "Okay, yeah, that's nice," and went back to his conversation with his friends. For the rest of the year, I kept getting sunburned intentionally, so I'd have a talking point with him and kept going up to him. "Hey, what about this sunburn? It's pretty bad now, huh? On top of that, I have such a fair complexion, I don't even tan. So it just burn, get embarrassed and go back to being really white." Wasn't me, but when I was in middle school we had the group who considered themselves the thugs. They weren't that bad. They were pretty much the class clowns that you also didn't want to freak with. Well, I remember in 6th grade, I went into the bathroom only to find them kicking one of the guys on the floor counting to 30 while the guy on the floor laughed. When it was over they congratulated him and welcomed him into their group. Yup, so cool. Well, it's not something I did to be cool, but to fit in and seem more normal. I used to pack my own lunch when I was a kid because my mom couldn't be bothered with it, and it really hurt my feelings when other kids would complain about how their moms never got it right and would pack the wrong stuff. So I would pack the only things we had in the fridge and pretend to be upset when my mom would get it wrong and put the diet pudding in instead of the regular stuff. In reality I did it on purpose, so people thought my mom cared enough to pack my lunch too. I didn't just want to fit in, I wanted to blend in. Edit. Thanks guys. Reddit is the best. In my middle school, wearing name brand clothes, the kind where everyone can see the logo, was cool for some reason. The two big brands were Echo and South Pole. Problem was, these clothes were expensive, and my single parent household wasn't exactly well off. So everyone made fun of me because all I had was second-hand clothes, often too small for me. My mom conceded to buying me one South Pole t-shirt. I wore that shirt literally every day. People still made fun of me. I learned a lot from that experience. As an Asian kid who didn't weigh above 100 pounds until high school, wore an XXL G-Unit t-shirt that had sleeves which would reach my mid-forearms with size 32 jeans. I lived in a suburban town with a median income of over $100,000 and my school students were predominantly Asians and Jews. I was a member of a group of kids who dressed similarly. WE CALLED OURSELVES THE GANG. Used to bring universal remotes to school and turn off the TVs when teachers tried to show videos to frig with them. Brought little remote control race cars and put cups over them and drove them around on the floor to scare people who thought it was a rodent. Oh. And JNCO's pants. Oh god, my one buddy did this in college at the cafeteria. There was a big football game on, and he kept switching the channel to a religious station and cranking the volume up the entire way. Of course the range on his remote wasn't very good, so we were sitting at the table right next to the TV, clearly laughing our asses off, but trying to suppress it. It didn't take long before some of the bigger guys in the cafeteria threatened to beat our asses if we didn't knock it off, but goddamn was it funny. Made little stick figures out of pipe cleaners. I made the heads just big enough to fit around a pencil. It made me happy seeing someone pull out a pencil with one of my little pipe cleaner people on the end of it. I used to wear band-aids on my knees, just because. I thought it made me cooler somehow. I once started walking with a limp in the mall when I was with my mom. I didn't have any pain, I just thought that cool people limped. My mom took me to the doctors, even when I insisted that nothing hurt, and I had stopped limping. Okay, I've always wondered if this was something that just happened at my middle school, or if it was a bigger trend. In 6th grade it became a huge thing to collect what we called chromies. Chromies are what we called the metal vent caps on car tires. Try looking at a bunch of car tires sometime. Most of the vent caps are made of plastic, but on some cars they're made of metal. Those are chromies. Of course, the only way to get chromies was to steal them off of cars. Since I was never a very popular kid, I saw this as a chance to shine. So I started seriously getting into collecting chromies, which I mostly got by walking around the neighborhood and taking them off people's cars parked in the driveway. Another way to get them was to pretend to tie your shoes in a parking lot as you were going back to the car. I pretty soon had the biggest collection of chromies of any kid in the school, about 120 I think, but better than that, 8 of them were off Licks users, which were the holy grail of chromies. The ones on Licks users were painted gold, and us being stupid kids we thought they were actually made of gold, so those were the best chromies of all. Some kid paid me $5 for 3 of them, which as a 6th grader was all the damn money, so you bet I took it. Then summer vacation came, and when we came back for 7th grade nobody cared about chromies anymore, so I went back to being one of the not cool kids. My collection vanished at some point, but somehow I still have one chromie which I still keep on a shelf with some other trinkets to remind myself of how much of a freaking idiot I was in middle school. Edit. Words. Hair gel. Lots of it. Just plastered in my hair to the point of forming a helmet. I remember when, the summer after 4th grade, so I was maybe 9, maybe the year 2002, my 13-year-old cousin came to stay with us for a summer. I thought he was the coolest guy ever. So during the first week, after he gets settled in, my mom takes us to the supermarket to get my cousin toiletries, food he liked, etc. So we're in the store, and we swing by the hair gel section and my cousin says, "Hold on, I need some." So here I'm expecting him to pick up a small bottle and be on our way. However, he picks up this tub that must have been nearly half a gallon. Not the pricier subtle kind either. The cheap kind that was virtually hair glue and made flakes everywhere when you scratched your scalp. There's no way you're ever going to need that much. Get a smaller one, my mother says. My cousin says, "I promise you, by the end of the summer I will finish with this whole tub of gel. I guarantee it." I think my mother, realizing what a golden opportunity she had, agreed. So for the rest of the hot sticky summer, my cousin put enough hair gel on to basically create a douche helmet. All summer, his hair was basically a marble mold that flaked so much it would come off his head as he walked by. On the morning of the last day he was staying with us, he comes downstairs with a tub of gel, and it's virtually empty. He sticks his finger in it and gets the last few dollops out of the container with the most satisfied look on his face. I couldn't believe it. How could someone use all that hair gel? "See, I told you I would finish it," he said. Needless to say, my mother was trying not to bust out laughing and spoil the whole thing. To this day, I'm sure my cousin is so glad that social media wasn't around back then to document every his stone-like douche hair summer vacation with Aunt Wendy and Uncle Steve. I played that stupid game, Quarters, with the cool kids. For those who never had the pleasure of playing this game, I'll give you a brief background. One person starts a quarter spinning on edge by flicking it. The second person has to touch the quarter without stopping the spin, followed by person 1 touching the quarter. This touching goes back and forth between the 2 people like a sad game of hot potato until one person touches the quarter and it stops spinning. If you were the poor bastard that caused the quarter to stop spinning, you had to put your knuckles down on the table and the other person would fling the quarter at you as hard as they could. It would hurt and make people bleed, but in middle school it was the coolest thing to do during lunch break. Carried around a handmade sign I took everywhere. One side said awkward, the other so random. I held this up at some situations to be funny. I wasn't funny. Edit. Side not sign. Throwing pencils upwards so that they get stuck in the ceiling. Writing that got a mess everywhere. You know the one. Edit. It's not the damn Stussy logo. They have never ever used the S as a logo. I don't know why everyone thinks this. I would get a girlfriend and then never talk to her again, and she would break up with me. I don't know if it was meant to be cool, but it worked to keep me from ever kissing a girl until I was 16. Made a secret deal with a close friend. We both will subtly drop rumors about each other that we both have hot girlfriends outside school. The next day after football, I initiated. Have you seen Pat's girlfriend? She's a real cutie. Another guy, he was saying the same about you this morning. What, you guys made some loser pact about a pretend GF? Me, I gotta go. See you tomorrow.
N.
I was in a breaking crew comprised of 5 Caucasian boys ranging in ages from 13 to 14. We were purposefully awful as a kind of performance art. We'd gather at the New York Public Library on Saturdays with our boombox and have everyone laughing at us. My street name was Weak Tea. Put rubber bands on my jeans to scruff them up. Take fashion pictures with girlfriends and hand them out to friends. Wear a belt buckle with my first name's initial on it. Wear K-Swiss with the flaps. Carry only a folder and no backpack. East LA in the early 2000s. I'm not sure how cool he thought it was, but one guy at my assigned lunch table in middle school drank milk out of a pickle every day. The school sold large, uncut pickles as a snack item, and every day, this kid would finish his meal, hollow out the pickle, and drink his milk out of it. Perhaps you are wondering how a kid hollows out a pickle. The answer is to bite one end off and then give the pickle 10 minutes of vigorous passionate fellatio. In those halcyon days before the internet, middle school kids' ideas about sex were vague, but we all knew this was the gayest thing in the world. Frankie, however, was unfazed. Dude, that is the gayest thing ever. Gross, what are you talking about? Him just eating a pickle. MRRFFF ref slew up. Come to think of it, I was probably placed at some kind of isolation table for weirdos. But that kid was weird. Wear running shorts and my 1993 Toronto Blue Jays Division Championship t-shirt to class every day. The shorts were dried up and it looked like I was wearing Speedos, while the shirt had holes in the shoulder. I was a self-loathing rich kid and thought, if I looked poor, I could be cool.